The billionaire's daughter, Amelia Roth, was the kind of name that made teachers shiver and students whisper. She wasn't cruel for the sake of cruelty, she was bored. Bored of the perfect world her father built around her. At 16, she'd been expelled from 3 elite academies for everything from crashing the principal's car to setting off the fire alarms during an exam, just to see what would happen. Her father, Charles Roth, a cold and calculating steel magnate, saw her as a stain on the family's image, an embarrassment he could not control. At St. James Academy, the most prestigious private school in New York, Amelia had been given her final chance. Everyone knew it, the teachers feared her attitude, the students envied her beauty and money, and the staff kept their distance. She strutted through the halls like a queen of chaos, untouchable, unreachable, unstoppable. Until one night, something broke inside her. The argument with her father had been worse than usual. He'd called her a failure, and for once, the words cut deep. She'd thrown her phone against the wall, shattering it, and ran back to school even though it was long past curfew. She sat in the empty auditorium, mascara streaking down her face, shaking with anger and loneliness. That's when she heard the soft squeak of a mop. A tall man in a gray uniform was quietly cleaning the floor near the stage. He didn't even look up when he saw her, he just kept mopping. No fear, no curiosity, no judgment. Just silence. "Don't you have somewhere else to be?" she snapped, her voice echoing in the vast room. He finally looked up, calm eyes meeting hers. "No," he said simply. "Do you?" The question hit her like a slap. She glared at him, ready to lash out, but there was something disarming about the way he spoke, steady, kind, and completely unaffected by her attitude. She noticed his hands, rough, calloused, the hands of a man who worked hard every day. When she didn't answer, he crouched down and began picking up the shards of her broken phone. "Careful," he murmured. "You'll cut yourself." "I don't need your help," she said coldly. "Didn't say you did," he replied, standing up and placing the pieces on the stage. Sometimes people just need a clean start. It was the way he said it, not like advice, but like truth. Later, she would learn his name, Michael Turner, the school's night janitor. A single father raising an 8-year-old girl named Lily. No fancy degree, no private jets, no mansion, just a man who showed up, did his job, and smiled through life's hardships. That night, Amelia stayed in the auditorium long after he left. His words echoed in her head, a clean start. For the first time in her life, she wondered if maybe the problem wasn't the world around her, but the walls she'd built inside herself. Over the next few weeks, Amelia's transformation began quietly, so quietly that even she didn't notice it at first. She started staying late at school, always finding excuses to wander near the auditorium, where Michael worked after classes. At first, she stood in the shadows, watching him mop the floor, fix light bulbs, and polish the rows of empty chairs. There was something peaceful in the rhythm of his movements, a kind of patience she had never seen before. One evening, she finally asked, "Why do you do this? You could do something better." Michael chuckled softly. "Better? I clean up after people who think they're too good to pick up after themselves. Someone has to." "That sounds sad," she said, frowning. He shook his head. "No, it's honest. I go home tired but proud. That's more than most people can say." She didn't reply, but something about his words clung to her thoughts long after she went home. The next afternoon, she saw him again, this time with a little girl sitting on a bench outside the janitor's office. Her brown pigtails bounced as she kicked her legs, humming to herself. Amelia hesitated but walked over. "You're Michael's kid?" she asked. The girl looked up and smiled. "I'm Lily. You're the girl everyone says is mean." Amelia blinked. "Excuse me," Lily shrugged. "My dad says hurt people hurt others. So maybe you're just hurt." For the first time in a long while, Amelia was speechless. The words of a child had pierced deeper than all the insults and lectures she'd ever heard. She didn't know why, but she found herself sitting next to Lily, watching the sunset through the glass doors. That small moment changed everything. From that day, Amelia started helping Michael after school. At first, she only swept a corner or wiped a window, joking that she just wanted to see how the peasants lived. But over time, she began to care. She cleaned without being asked. She listened when Michael spoke. And when he talked about Lily's dreams, she realized how big love could be, even when life gave you little. Students started whispering when they saw her with a mop. Teachers thought she'd lost her mind. But Amelia didn't care. For once, she wasn't pretending to be someone else, she was learning who she was. Her father, however, didn't see it that way. When Charles Roth found out his daughter was spending time with the janitor, he exploded. He marched into the school with his lawyers, demanding Michael be fired. "You think you can fix my daughter?" he shouted, his voice echoing down the hall. "You're nothing but a janitor." Michael stood tall. "Maybe, but I'm a father, and I care about her when no one else seems to." At that moment, Amelia burst in. "He's the only one who ever saw me, Dad. You just see your company's name on me, not me." For the first time, Charles had no words. He looked at his daughter and saw something he hadn't seen in years: strength, fire, and tears that meant something real. The confrontation at the academy became the turning point. After that day, Charles Roth didn't yell again. He didn't know how to handle the change in his daughter, this new version of Amelia who smiled at people, held doors open, and volunteered for extra projects. She even began tutoring younger students in literature, something unimaginable months ago. It was as if the storm inside her had finally settled. Her secret, however, wasn't really a secret anymore. The story of the billionaire's daughter who cleaned floors with the janitor spread throughout the school like wildfire. Some laughed, others admired her, but Amelia no longer cared what anyone thought. For the first time in her life, she felt proud, not because of her name, but because of her choices. She still helped Michael in the evenings, but now, it wasn't about learning humility, it was about connection. Michael became like the father she never truly had, patient, honest, and unshakably kind. Lily adored her, too. The three of them formed an unlikely friendship, a small, quiet family of sorts. One weekend, Michael invited Amelia to volunteer at a local shelter where he and Lily often spent their Saturdays. She agreed, though she'd never set foot anywhere like it before. The shelter was filled with children, loud, joyful, messy, playing on broken furniture and sharing crayons. Amelia froze, overwhelmed at first, until one little girl tugged her hand and asked, "Will you draw with me?" By the end of that day, Amelia was sitting cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by laughing kids, paint stains on her designer jeans. She had never felt so free. That evening, she went home and found her father waiting in her room. For once, he didn't look angry. He just looked lost. "I don't understand you anymore," he said softly. "You have everything, Amelia. Why waste your time there?" She smiled gently. "Because, Dad, it's the first place I ever felt needed." Her words stayed with him. A few weeks later, he appeared at the shelter himself, standing awkwardly by the door in an expensive suit. Michael greeted him, offering a hand. "Good to see you, Mr. Roth." Charles hesitated, then shook it. "Call me Charles," he said. "And, thank you, for my daughter." After that, something remarkable happened. Father and daughter started rebuilding what they had lost. Charles began donating supplies to the shelter, not as a businessman seeking credit, but as a father trying to understand. He even showed up to volunteer once, shocking everyone. When graduation day came, Amelia was no longer the girl the world feared. She was the girl who had changed it. As she stood on the stage, her speech was simple. "I used to think power meant control. But it doesn't. Power is kindness, and courage, and getting your hands dirty when no one else will. I learned that from a man who swept floors, and from a little girl who showed me what hard looks like." The crowd rose to its feet in thunderous applause. Michael and Lily clapped the loudest, tears glistening in their eyes. And as Amelia stepped off the stage, Charles Roth whispered to Michael, "You did the impossible." Michael smiled. "No," he said quietly. "She did."